Good morning, good morning, good morning. Today is the 9th of February, and I'm going to try something pretty ambitious this morning. If I can pull it together, I've got like the rough concept in my head. There's kind of two main points I'm going to try and flesh out. Still feel quite ill, and I'm putting that down to as a point. So I've been doing this rehabilitation thing, and I say for my hips, but it's like now I'm 90% certain it's far more complicated than that, due to the progress I've made. Like I'm doing my own science, believe it or not. Which, funnily enough, is the most accurate way to do it. It's just, it's hard to get. Not everyone has that kind of knowledge, and especially in the past, it would have been impossible. So this isn't, it's not blaming anyone specifically. It's just putting authority on my own findings, on my own body, that I have a very intimate relationship with in a way that no one else can. So it's self-experimentation, I suppose. But I think I'm at a stage where, basically, it's been more than 2 years. It's been probably 4 years. 4 years of. It's been about 4 years since I got told that, or 3 years since I got told that I needed 2 hip replacements, and that took me about 4 years to get to that point. And then, say 2 years before that, got falsely led down a mental health pathway. And so, that's 10 years of my life. So you can see how this is just fucking crazy. And I believe, so where am I going to go from this? So hang on, so I'll keep mapping out. So I'm at a stage now, it's been traumatic the whole time. Basically, it's like resistance training. It's like any other type of training, except unlike if I go, say my upper body, my arms or my legs, my arms or my chest or my back is all fairly, works fairly well. And so when I do basic, like I can go to the gym and lift basic weights. And I almost now like consider that as like just purely aesthetic based training. Because so things like my arms now are really, really strong, really efficient with the biomechanics that suits the types of activities I want, but not necessarily the most aesthetic. So I could go, like if I went to a gym right now and said, right, I want bigger arms, which is this is a thing with men. It's like, we're fucking bombarded with this all the time. The arms are like the tits for men. So I know I could go do resistance thing for hypertrophy and build bigger muscles. But my muscles now have never been stronger for their size. It's a weird, because I think strength, if you're looking at efficiency, is what I'm kind of concerned with. And so it doesn't make sense to have large muscles, which is kind of a really big problem in the fitness industry, because that's what's getting promoted, which is okay when you're a 20-year-old guy. who isn't, you know what I mean, who's just purely working on aesthetics, it's like by the time you get to 40, you are potentially going to have pretty fucking serious issues. Because you're building, every muscle that gets bigger and stronger puts tension on something else. Anyway, so I've been in a cycle for about the last 3 years where I was quite strong and even in some places had like large muscles, but just basically because it was just aesthetic and because of the two factors of my job that I would lift awkwardly, so that actually made me like, I already had basically like a type of like farmer strength, which wasn't, so I wasn't huge, but I was really strong, especially in these certain awkward movements. But that in combination with like really large amounts of driving, being seated and driving, and probably like exaggerated by singing as well. I think that's maybe one of the biggest, because I would sing while I was driving, and I sing quite like it's quite high level output singing, and so that basically decimated my body. But so the last 2 years, I've been on a process basically starting from my feet. So the first, there was a good 6 months where I was working, I had this shed and I would walk around this like gravel yard that was about 5 acres. And at night I would just walk around it barefoot, and it hurt like hell. Like it was like 10 minutes of that was, like not even 10 minutes, like literally 1 minute of that and you wanted to fucking stop. Like really sharp gravel. And I would do that for like a couple of hours. And what it did is it kind of brought back to life my feet, which had been killed. You know what I mean? There should have been a murder trial. There should have been a murder investigation about how my feet had been killed. And that particular thing had been since I was a child. My feet didn't work like feet. They worked like weird blobs that had been stuffed in shoes my entire life. And it was so funny. It was like a type of acupuncture or acupressure. And this gravel slowly but surely woke up my feet, and then my feet were like, hey, we've woken up. Let's wake the ankles up. Like, this is the bottom of my feet, and then woke the ankles up. Then in combination with like some knees over toes things, but mainly just like walking and a type of stretching that puts stress on the ligaments. Like, so I would like walk on the sides of my feet and make sure that all those tendons are really strong. And slowly but surely, like, so I got up there basically to my knees. My knees were just a mess. They were so weak. They were very strong in the very narrow band that I needed them for. And I think a lot of the awkward lifting I'd had to do for my job, I knew where to load my knees up, and I knew how I could do that, and I knew the angles and the thing, because I basically just adapted a strategy to be able to do these few things that I just repeatedly did for 20 years. Now, if you don't know what a commercial glazier is, or like if you think, next time you're at a shopping center, look at those humongous windows. Know that they're really heavy pieces of glass and they get lifted in by hand. And it's the same as those shower screens. It's like they're fucking heavy. They're really fragile. So you've got to be really, really careful. Really like things. So it's like I just adapted basically to that, and then to sitting and to singing. And I do think it was exaggerated by a probably brain injury, because I don't see the same degradation. Like, a lot of people are fine, and it wasn't like I was an athlete when I was young. I surfed, I did all this stuff. So there was something about, and it did really start like a year or so after that. Before that, I was I did a lot of cycling. I was very athletic. After it, I gained a lot of weight, and then about a year after that, that's when I started getting the pain. So it just wasn't. I just didn't think like that. Also, because of the situation I was in after the head injury, so I just kind of got on with things, and I had 2 kids. I had another kid on the way very quickly. The job environment was weird. So I had a lot of things going on, and so it just wasn't, and I just never heard about it. I never really thought that anything like that could cause it. I was basically being tough. I was like, I'm fine. And then it's only now looking back and hearing other people's accounts of things that I kind of start putting it together, and I'm like, I think that fucked me up a little bit. And I think the way I look at it, I think the theory I have is that that near-death thing and the damage to my brain kind of optimized my brain to be really hyper-focused on whatever particular activity I was doing, and to like, it seemed to quickly adapt to that fully, in a way. And I got obsessed with my business to the point where I was like, it wasn't making sense. I was driving so much, doing all this stuff, and there was stress the whole way through. So it like adapted my body to just purely do those things. And then I think even if it was doing that, it like hyper adapted me. So I would have been the same as I am now. Like, I'm exhausted because I'm trying to repair back to base form. And it's really taxing because my body's like, oh God, he wants to do this now. So my whole body structure is changing around basic movement. That's why I'm terrified about doing even a day's worth of work or a day's worth of driving. I'm like back to square one. Because there was so much emphasis on that if I re-stimulate that, it re-stimulates back to there. And I don't know whether that is some capacity I just have to be careful with, because it feels like exaggerated in this way. That's where I kind of think there may be some type of neurological damage, and it feels like something I have to manage very carefully. Like, I have to give my body and my mind the right stimulus, otherwise it just reverts to this strange animatronic fucking thing that's in pain all the time, because I think it just thinks everything's life or death. Like, that's my theory. I think like my body went, right, it's life or death. He almost got killed. If he doesn't become this machine that sits and lifts heavy things carefully, he's going to die again. And singing, like, because weirdly singing was like that was my kind of, since I was a baby, that was just what I did for myself. I always sang, I was always musical, and that was my instrument. So if I was at work and I couldn't sing, I would whistle and I would hum, and it used to piss everyone off. So from that, and then after that head injury, all the notes moved. That's the main thing that gives me the indicator that something happened in that injury. All the notes moved in my vocals. So I would go to sing something I'd been doing since a child, and the wrong note would come out, which was really scary and really upsetting. Like, it was my favorite thing on earth. It was my thing, and it all moved. So I had to relearn that, and I think that's the main thing that that's kind of the main indicator that something was going on. And I think if it went on with that, something that I was very, very in tune with, and singing's funny like that because there's no physical thing, it's all mental. It's all this mental like exercise in abstraction. It all exists in this place you can't see. And so, yeah. And it's the same feeling that I have, like singing is, now I'm almost in an effortless sing of it, but the relearning was very intense. And this is how I feel about it. It's the same thing. Like I recognize the physical stuff I'm doing being the same as the minute physical things, because singing is a muscular exercise. It's the same. It's just these, whereas the singing was acuity, was small motor movements and finesse. And this is the same, but these are like what I'm dealing with now, especially now that I've got all the way up to my knees, up to my upper thighs, and now I'm in this pelvis region and this hip region, and I can see it when I look in the mirror or when I move. These are such large muscles, and I just really believe that there's like bad connections, there's bad muscle placement on the bone even, like there's whole sections of muscles that have just atrophied to nothing. There's instinctual, like there's reactive protection, which is probably the most uncomfortable thing. Like I almost have to trick myself into getting into some of these positions. And it's not like stretching, like I've done yoga and things like that, I do other things. This feels akin to like torture sometimes. It feels like the same way you can imagine sticking a knife in your arm would be quite hard to do. It's like that. So I have to trick myself into allowing these positions and waking these muscles up. And it makes me, it's pain. It's pure pain. It's pure discomfort. It's pure just whatever. And then it's only I get these little glimmers of being like, oh, I can feel it again. I can feel how my body's meant to work. And I get a little glimmer, and then all that damage, all that trauma, all that probably tearing, and like, I think there's a lot of built up like calcium stuff, the muscles being dead. Like waking a muscle up that's dead feels like chopping that muscle off. It's a head fuck. And if you're a young, healthy person, you just have no idea what that's like. So it's really taxing. So I did a heavy day yesterday, and today I just feel like absolute shit. Like I feel just like sick, like hot, like exhausted mentally, exhausted physically, really depressed. I don't want to do anything, because it's the same as if I was in a car accident or something. And that's but then there's a balance between like not doing that too much, because then you'll revert back. So yeah, that's that. What I believe, doing this, now that I'm very, very sure about what I'm doing, I have to be careful not to get worried that, hey, my brain kind of did this. Your brain might just give up. That doesn't really feel that nice. And I think the weirdest thing is that this hasn't just been a fight with my own body and my own recovery. It's literally been a fight with everyone around me too. And this is the most, like, this actually, even saying it, like, I get fucking physically upset about this because it shocks me so much. I had to fight and basically pull myself out of any interaction with almost anyone that I'd known to be able to even do this. And there is still no recognition from it because it didn't come from a fucking doctor. And that just, when I, being in this, when I work for probably 2 or 3 hours to get some relief and some range of movement and get that little glimmer of hey, you might be okay. You might have days without pain. You might have days where you can pick something up off the floor and not be, do you know what I mean? Not feel like someone's stabbing you in the back. You might be able to move like you remember moving and not move like someone's chopped you in half and stuck you around the wrong way. You might, you know what I mean? It's like hope. And it's like the fact that I had to, that terrifies me. That this industry of so-called professionals is in a position over my own authority of my body. And I've seen it with my mother, with her mental shit. And I see it now with mental illness everywhere. It's that's a fucking huge problem. It's a huge, huge problem. And it's obviously, I was smack bang in the middle of doing this and really, really getting confidence in it when the mandates came in. And that was just basically that was like a full-on capture and reinforcement of this thing. And what I believe we're in, this I'm now going to get to the subject that I wanted to talk about. And I think I've written about it, maybe spoken about it before, but it's we are trapped in what's best described as an iteration cycle, an iteration trap. Where almost every aspect of our lives, whether it be a technology or a profession or anything like that, we're trapped in a cycle of iteration where we are just iterating on top of iteration. And there is almost no emphasis on first principles. There is no body of policing or observing or anything on first principles. And so we are, if you think of the telephone game where people say things and then it changes, you around a circle and it changes to something else. It's very similar to that, except it's progression. And what's worse is the whole entity itself is we're obsessed with this progression curve. And I've heard this spoken about with growth, but I think take growth out of it. Even if we got to a place where we were right, we're just going to progress, growth, we're not going to grow, we're just going to progress. And I suppose progression is a type of growth. But so is cancer. And this is where we're in. This, if I like to think about it, I wish I should really get a whiteboard. If we're on a progression growth, all it takes is one point on that progression line. If that one point is doomed to failure, and we never go back to that point and adjust, then anything you put on top of that is doomed to failure. And this is everywhere. This is absolutely everywhere. And so because I'm having this, it's very clear to see in my recovery, I hit a point where it took me 4 years to get to a point where I had 2 professionals, high professionals, which society is just they're the professionals, they're the ones, they're the adjudicators, they're the deciders. And I got 2. It wasn't one opinion, I got 2 opinions. These people are meant to be experts in this particular field. And both of them said the same thing. And that was depressing, but then hopeful. So I was depressed. I was like, oh, my bones are fucked. That's not good. Oh, at least they can fix it. Yay them. Right? There's the point. That's the point on the progression line. So if you think their sales pitch is my life as a progression line, well, yes, you've hit this point and you have this problem because you're fucked. There's something wrong with you. You're shit. You're like a shit person. I'm a good person. You're a shit person. If I fix this here, you have a chance to get glimpse a normal life thanks to me here. So I'm going to do this to you. So that in that one moment when they say that goes, what they're actually saying is you're shit, your body's shit because you're just shit. You have a problem. You probably have a problem from birth, and this is just probably something. I don't have anything like that. That's why I've been able to elevate to this point where I can dish out this advice, and I'm going to fix it because I'm just a kind guy. You're going to pay me for fixing it, lots and lots of money, but that money is going to be wrapped up in some kind of weird government and fucking insurance scam shell game. So you don't really feel the full load of that money, but I still get the full load of that money, and I get to be here making that decision. And then you get to progress on your natural progression line to something resembling normality. But now, that point, now that I've gone off and gone, hang on a sec, I've gone off on a tangent, a big fucking loop, to be like, maybe they were wrong. What happens if I just do this? Oh, that's a bit better. What happens if I do this? Then that whole cycle, up until now, that's the whole way up through my feet, up through my legs, up to the muscles, up to the neck, like upper thigh, up to the hip, up to the muscles of my core, up to all this thing, up to stretching and stretching and stretching and elongating and elongating and decompressing and decompressing and decompressing and decompressing for years and years and years and years, almost every day. Thousands of, like, maybe not thousands, but like hundreds and hundreds of kilometers walked with bare feet and fucking load and all this shit, and going through this process of just getting slightly better the whole time in doubt, because this one person here put the doubt there until I get to here. When I get to a certain point, there's a certain point where I'm getting now where I can, like, I'm flaring my hips out, which is activating this section of my glutes, which was dead, because basically until then everything felt unstable. But if I can get to there, it's like ultimate stability appears and strength, and I'm like, whoa. And to me, this is without steroids. I did take one small period of steroids, which I think, like, just flipped me up above a thing so I could actually do something like this. And I actually think the constant damage actually stimulates testosterone growth, but it's, you know, I could probably do with some testosterone because this is incredibly stressful. But then it's funny, that would probably be hard to get because I'm not wanting to become I'm not a girl wanting to be a man. I'm wanting to recover from shit that's really intense. Like, this is what the Tour de France guys are doing. They're damaging their bodies so bad that testosterone's like probably saving their lives, and I'm in that. That's why I'm so exhausted every day. And I'm going to go find out. I'm going to go to the doctor and be like, tell them the whole story and be like, is there any way I could go just do one cycle of low test just to help in my recovery, because it's killing me. The exhaustion from this is killing me. This putting on this amount of muscle at this age is fucking not, yeah. It's not a natural thing. And I'm not doing it aesthetically. I'm not doing it to be fucking Thor. I'm doing it to be able to walk without pain and to be able to live. So anyway, the whole way, doubt, until now, and now I'm getting here, and it's like that pattern is, unfortunately, because I'm also in this thing where I'm criticizing this stuff, and I've had to ostracize myself. I've had to pull myself away from everyone, and still everyone thinks I'm insane. And it's like that problem is everywhere. It is everywhere. And it's like a fucking asteroid. It's worse than an asteroid. Because it's like an asteroid's either going to wipe us out or we're not going to be. It's like, it's instant. We can't control it. It's just there. It's whatever. This is to be in the position I'm in and to be able to see this and know that it can be fixed. But then also to know that it's really massive to get fixed, so it probably isn't going to be. It's propped up by so much self-interest and so much let's get on with the job, keep going, don't look back. Like fucking this momentum. And knowing that it's not just in one particular area, it's in all areas. I'm in discomfort because of my body, and it's like this is mentally the same level of discomfort every day, because anywhere I look, I'm just like, holy shit, it's everywhere, because of course it is. It's like we haven't had enough time to, if you look at just war, the fact that wars went on. Wars are going on right now. Literally. So a war is certain people in power who are there to supposedly protect us, who are more than likely just examples of the same as the surgeon. They're that point of like, yeah, trust me, I know what's going on. Are convincing people to die, which means that's the position they're in. So they believe they've taken on. They know so much that they're trying to make everything better to the point where they're going to convince people to die to bring their vision into reality. Which means they're on a suicide mission. Like, that is the mapping out of a suicide cult. And so that has gotten, then you chuck in survivorship bias. And this is how that whole, say a surgeon, they just exist from survivorship bias, because it's unlikely, well, I'm not being heard. I've been talking about this for 2 years. Nothing is going to get out because they control the whole system. So who gets out of the surgeon? The football player or the runner or the celebrity that has some miracle story. But the miracle story, from my thing, is really only about pain. It's about pain not being there. And like, then it's like, do we then interview that sports person at age 40, 50, 60, 70, 80? And also it's taking into account that so a sports person is like, they've got a certain amount of time where they're an athlete. So it's like, that's what that person's doing. And if you're it's very different. Say I was a sports person and I had this thing. It's like, yeah, you have the surgery, you take the pain away so I can hammer through it, get whatever, and then make all that money. But for me, like thinking about a sustainable life, I'm like, no, I would have just got worse. All the recovery that I'm now experiencing, although it being very, very taxing, very stressful, very time consuming, is like all benefit, because all that pain and feeling and all these things is allowing me to actually build out a structure, like a strength and a structure that I can rely on. And if that was taken away either by pills or by surgery, the surgery weirds me out the most, because it's like, I think most of my pain comes from the activating of dead muscles. I think there's some weird like impingement, there is some strange things in the joint itself. But that weirdly, like, that is what stimulates the cartilage growth, is that pain. So there's no way, so that's all they do. They're just like, well, we'll replace the hip. Then you take away that whole thing, and then if you can use that, then you might get the muscle thing back. But if you've got to a point where you're getting the ends of your legs chopped off because of pain, the muscle stimulation pain, so if you've already got to that atrophy stage, you're probably not going to do that work. And then you're worried about the joint as well, because a joint is an artificial thing, so you're not going to want to load it up the same. It's fucking intense. And I mean, really, I should never have got to the point where it was all that bad. And I do think that does have like, for me personally, what would be considered an accident, because I was wrong place, wrong time, and I got the shit kicked out of me by 20 people. That's unfortunate. But this could apply to someone, a football player that takes a big hit in the head, or or a military person who does it, or someone in a car accident. All these things can happen the same. And so that's why I know what I'm talking about is really important. It's just, I feel like there is no way I'm not going to be gate-kept out of that conversation, because it's like I've had some doomsday stuff. I've had some things. I look at the economy, all this shit. I'm like, this just seems like, to me, almost, a lot of people get down there. It's doomed. It's doomed, and I'm like, maybe it's not doomed if we can just focus in on this one thing, this one like side effect of humanity, because it does work. It's like I used to be, when I was young, I was the type of kid that would kind of, a lot of times, like lead another group of kids to do something. Like I would be like, hey, let's go build this thing in the bush, or hey, let's go here, or hey, let's go explore here. And sometimes that was bad. It's like, hey, let's go break into this shed, or hey, let's go, you know what I mean? Let's go do this. And it would work, but I think this structure of building on, like, purely just take the internet. It's like we're building all this stuff on the internet, which just keeps increasingly making the internet more of a target. Because the more everything gets dependent on the internet, the larger effect we can get by people taking the internet. And this isn't me, I don't want to do this, but there are people that would want to do this. And that exists for the written word. It's like, trust me, the written word, contracts and things like that, that's what fucking keeps this whole place going. But the written word was far harder to attack. That's why it had a reign of domination for so long. And then before that, we had things like carved in stone. It's like, that's the real fucking thing. I think that's what paper, scissors, rock is. I think I've spoken about it before. I think paper is contractual law. Rock is like almost the religious thing, because rock is like a cathedral is rock. The pyramids are rock. Structures are rock. They are actually stronger than the paper. But like the paper can get around it. That's it. Just like even see the imagery around it. Paper can like block it from being seen. And then scissors, I think, is swords. So violence will cut the paper up to reveal the rock. And this is where I believe we are at right now. We're in a point where paper, this is like degrees, certificates, certification, parliament, politicians, politics, contracts, marriage, all things that are done in paper, has covered these like rock, which are these basic truths that we hold, which is like self-autonomy, the fact that if really base concepts, like caring for our environment, like building structures, like if you think Three Little Pigs, like building a house out of stone as opposed to sticks, which is paper, like things that are fragile and can flutter away. Short-term strategies, whereas rock is long-term strategies. My strategy of repairing my whole body, even though it took a long time and it was really painful and really stressful, is a rock strategy. It's a strategy that ends with a structure that is strong, as opposed to shortcutting through that, which would end up with a compromised thing. Like, basically, I think that's like the difference between somebody stabbing me in a fucking alleyway and somebody convincing me that they're an expert to chop the ends of my legs off. I don't see a whole lot of difference there, bar the fact that one has paper protection and the other one doesn't. So even that requires a whole lot of patience and like forgiveness and things like that, to be kind of like sitting on this truth now that I know that every day someone is getting put in their progression cycle that just basically buys them a boat and lifts up their arrogance in their own profession, and is getting stolen from them the chance to ever have this long road to structural stability. And so I think you can still have the choice, but it's like, it's like these surgeries should be like, it should be mandatory. You know, we've had a lot of mandatory things to do with fucking medical shit lately. It's like mandatory fucking to go, well, this is a shortcut. This is a shortcut, and you may have massive negative fucking things from it. And there may be some way that you can take this into your own hands and build a structural thing, but it may be painful and it may take a long time. But if people don't know that, then but that's the problem I have. And I think this exists in every point. And this is the iterative cycle. So it's like right now, I see the whole of my location going off into this iterative thing where it's like we're building on top of the internet that's already having issues, that's already becoming more fragile, that's already becoming less and less believable. We're getting away from the things that we had that were more stone-like. Like gold could be looked at as a stone. And we're so far away from that, we're into literally paper. You can see this everywhere. The paper only exists because it's protected by swords, which is the scissors. But if that turns, then it tears the paper to shreds and makes it nothing and reveals the stone again. And so I feel like stuck knowing this. It's like a knowing that I get little moments where I'm like, should I just ignorantly just re-enter? I don't think I'll be able to. Should I just ignore it? It's like I can't. It's everywhere. I don't. But then also it's like I don't want to run off into some bunker somewhere. It's gonna, like, I'm in a weird point where I can kind of balance out this weird holding pattern for a while and see if the scissors come out, if the swords come out, or if collapse comes, if the house of cards, the paper cards collapses, then perhaps my argument about this iterative structure can be listened to. But once there is a frenzied bubble just continuing this on, then me to kick up, like I can do this when no one's listening and I'm just documenting, but if I go kick up too big a stink, I've already seen that's why I'm out here by myself, because people wouldn't even believe that I knew how to fix my own body, because that just seems fucking crazy. That's a real problem. And it's not like a mystical fucking Jesus thing. It's not like I went abracadabra la wula wula willy willy la da da fix my body. It's like, no, it's 3 years of hell. 3 years of hell, interconnectedness between this thing, feeling and thinking, and this thing moving, and a dance between those two things, and pure pain. And the pain, there's something about the pain of activating. Anyone will know this if you've tried to play guitar. If you tried to play guitar as a beginner, it's hell. Some of those chords, like, you'll be like, I don't even know how anyone can do that. When that's in your hand, it's concentrating your hand. When it's in something like your pelvis, that's connected to your spine and your legs and your fucking back, and it's putting pressure on all those things, like it's putting pressure on your spinal fluid, pressure and everything like that. It's like that, activating that to do something that it's evolved out of doing. It's like at almost 40, your body does not want to do that. It feels like sticking hot needles into you. Like and it feels like if you've seen people do rehab after spinal injuries and things like that, it's really not good. It's not nice. It's not nice in a way that I didn't really believe it was possible to have as a younger man. Like, you talk about pain, like you fall over, like I've broken bones, been almost bashed to death. I've fucking torn my ligaments in my legs. I've done all this stuff. This is insane. This is off the fucking chart as far as pain and discomfort. There's something really, like, it feels unnatural. It feels like, because I don't think we're really meant to do too many of these. Like, I think we're meant to adapt as this fully functional thing in childhood, and this is again what terrifies me about schools and the way we're educating kids' behaviour. It's like they're not even getting the structure in the beginning, and so their problems are going to be like, I had it. I developed it as a kid. I was really active. I used to climb trees and run around and do all this shit. Played sport, did all this stuff. Lost it because of this probably head injury and whatever. Now regaining it. But if you never got it, I don't even think it will be possible to rebuild. Because it's like I'm drawing on deep-seated memories of movement and that structure. It's so deep, and that's painful. It really is. It's like it's like zapping the life out of you. Like you're like reaching to nothingness. I'm kind of describing it. It's like, it's just pure belief that this will work. It's like, can this work? Can this muscle that's dead fucking jump back into life? And is this movement that I somehow remember in the depths of my core still there? And it's like, yes, but it's not pleasant. And to wrap this off, I've got 13 minutes. So that's all to do with physical things and this iterative cycle of technology and science, and how we get stuck on the treadmill or on the escalator. Whether we know it or not, each iteration is built on the previous iteration. If we don't go back to first principles at every point, we run the risk of this, and that's really hard to do. Going back to first principles is the same as doing this. I'm going back to first principles. Hey, my body should move and act as a body. It's designed perfectly. There isn't a problem. It's designed perfectly, but somehow it's adapted off to this other purpose because the things I'm doing are not natural behavior for this thing. You know, I've adapted to it because I've been forced to protect my family, supposedly, or to provide for my needs. And I think weirdly, so that's all physical. Now think about this within ideology, with ideas that we've inherited fully to our core. And I think, just like the movement is uncomfortable, I think we've gotten to a point, and I've started realizing that this the last couple of days really intensely. I'm looking at a lot of debate, a lot of argument, a lot of things all across the world. There's so much polarity. And even this within a close relationship I have, I started noticing these things. I started like fleshing out this concept, this idea that we have devolved to a point where, say our structures of government, where in a lot of countries we have a two-party system. That two-party system emerged under an umbrella of unified presence, and then the acceptance that there will always be two sides to that unified presence, and there will be a dance between those two sides, and that was the... All right, phone got too hot. So I've got 10 minutes left. Let's see if I can do this. But yeah, basically what I was saying, I think ideology, political parties are becoming, because we are trapped on this progression path. We used to be like this, so we could be on progression paths, which was still a problem, but we're all at least on the same one. And so we'd be like left, right, left, right, left, right. It's literally like that. Like the unified belief was we were on the same rough progression path. We're all on this progression path together. That's the problem. We never were. We didn't adapt proper principles of going back to first principles, proper strategy, proper like just rationality. So that was the first point. We all accepted we were on this progression path because that's what a series of people for thousands of years kept saying. We're like, trust me, we're going to go here, we're going to go here, we're going to raid these people, and then we're going to be in heaven. Da, 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 da. So that became the uniform thing. And then because we were all on that, say in the Western world or in our particular countries, in Australia or in the US or in the UK, what we developed as some type of stability was a left or right. So it's like, we're going here. It's like we're going too far left, going too far right, too far left. We're still snaking our way up that fucking thing, up the Tower of Babel. And now what's happening is those things have split and they're going like this, still on progressive paths. And now they're just yelling across the thing of like, so we are dividing as a culture because we cannot get off the drug of progression. We can't I'm down here, I'm like, I've jumped off. Yous are both fucking going to building something shit. We need to come back to here. We need to realize we were standing on a fucking tower of fucking iteration, progressiveness that is disconnected from its basic initial trigger to make the thing. It's like, we've got so much work to do down here. That's how we progress. We refine. This progression is now just insanity. And you're both arguing about what, like, and that's what I see. And it's like, I get to points where it's like, so if I want to stay in that stable position, I know that is the truth. But I also kind of know human nature. It's like, well, nothing's ever stopped that progression before, so you're going to fucking continue doing it. So we're going to go into a civil war because no one's listening to me. Like, it's not like the belief that I have is like, well, it's not like everyone's going to start listening to me. I don't hear a whole lot of people talking about this particular thing. I see a whole bunch of people going up their progression tower on the left. I see a whole bunch of people going up their progression tower on the right. And then I get to a point where it's like, right, I just have to stay out of fucking harm's way and keep observing the world. So I'm like, fuck this tower. I'm going to walk off. But then, like, I live in the world and you all control the entire world. So it's like, oh, great. I'm going to be in a world that I don't even want to be in. I'm going to be trapped with these dickheads building a tower. And then they're going to go to war with each other for their own fucking illusions of progression that is so, like... And it's just like, I kind of do see little glimmers. Like, I think some of the things are so extreme that I think there'll be like, the youth are kind of pushing progression because that's what they've grown up expected. Same as even my generation, if you call us the youth. It's like, we were promised this thing that's not going to happen. And we're pissed off about it. We're like, fuck, it's a Fight Club thing. And then the generations below us, they've been promised something that's basically just complete fucking Disneyland. And it's like, yeah, that's not going to work. But they're becoming like, they're not structured enough. So at least we were on the same path doing that, and now they've been born into basically here, and so I feel like that is going to run out of steam, and then from there, people will be searching for the point of unity, the last point of unity, the last stone before it got fucking wobbly, the last, hopefully. And so hopefully if I have enough banking, if I just map out this territory and go, guys, I know what the problem is. You've all kept going. We've got to come back to here. We've got to look down. We can't keep building this fucking tower, especially if it's divided. It is the thing of it. And what we do is like, we actually have a pretty good tower. It's just, we're way too like impetuous with how we're building it. It's like there's big wobbly bits here. There's really big wobbly bits here. Like we need to stop building for progression. We need to build for structural integrity. I almost think this is like what the Twin Towers, for some reason, just popped into my mind. It's like, yeah, they collapsed. The Twin Towers collapsed. They should have been able to withhold that hit. And it's like the same type of theories around that is the same principle here. It's like those towers, the reason it was so shocking is like they were giant fucking towers and they collapsed like that. And this is what we have. We have the left and we have the right, two twin towers just yelling at each other. Yeah, that's quite a strong image, isn't it? I wonder if that's maybe something that's been known about for a while. I don't know. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe I'm just good at visualizing things, but it's like, this is what I see. I see two towers of a obsession with progression. Obsession with progression, when you're messing with my passion, and whatever. I'm not that good at rapping, but that's built on a foundation of quicksand. And so we can, like, we need concentrated effort to identify which strands of this progression are healthy. Is this a healthy strand, or is this a structure built on an ideology that's flawed? And a lot of them are, like most of them are, unfortunately. And so then we need to go, like each industry needs to like go down its chain constantly and find out points where it might need to come back to. And that just isn't something like, that's what would happen. Some businesses do this. If you like, a lot of financial businesses do this because it's good financial strategy, but then they also do the opposite. So they'll go and shore themselves up for their own thing, but they may still be building on a thing, or they may be connected into the world at a point that is flawed. There could be the orthopedic surgeon in the financial industry, which there is. Like, that's what every financial person is talking about right now. They're all like, this thing's gonna fucking collapse, because they all know it's built on a lie. It's like, what is the first lie? Probably the gold standard. Like, and then it's like, how big? Like, we're in an experiment of how big can you build a fictional construction, and then we're trying to now, like the metaverse, the idea of the metaverse that Zuckerberg will talk about. It's like, that's an idea of a fucking completely fictitious structure built on top of fucking 6 other completely fictional structures. If that's not hopes and dreams, it's like nothing else is. That's all it is. It's just pure dumb fucking wishes and unicorn tears. So yeah, that's an hour. Have a great day. All right, so I realised I've been playing this whole fucking thing the wrong way. And that's why I've dressed appropriately in rags. Because obviously, what I haven't realised is that we're in the male equivalent of the Cinderella story right now, unfolding all around us, about to be revealed globally, all at the same time. There's going to be a unifying moment in which the real Cinderellas are revealed for who they've always been during this period. Now, Cinderella was a story very appropriate to its time. It's just that time was 50, 60 years ago now. And so We need a new story. We need a new Cinderella story for the modern era. And you know what? It slowly dawned on me. It wasn't all at once. It was like I put it together in time, and I realised that I've spent the last 3 or 4 months repairing my body from literal slavery. I'm not even kidding you. Like I have to lay flat with my, if you can imagine, my like bum up, because my pelvis region has been destroyed by work. Like destroyed. It like in a way that the undestroying process of that is so traumatic to my body and my mind that it knocks me out and I can't do anything because I'm repairing absolute damage. That's what I did voluntarily to myself to provide for and protect my family. In some arrangement where, you know, in the past that was some reciprocal arrangement, but that ended up culminating with, because I was trying to do that, I got called crazy. And then because I then had to stop being a slave to repair the damage, because I'm like, well, I've still got a lot of time left. I can't continue onto this. Then I literally, like, that culminated in me getting sent to jail. And it dawned on me, like, that's somehow I dug through that social whipping that I'd been whipped with since being a boy. And I got through and found liberation in there somehow. And conveniently, just like you can imagine the housewife of old on the washboard, washing the clothes and churning the butter and harvesting the vegetables that she'd grown, and sewing the children's clothes and sweeping the floor and baking the bread and doing this huge, massive thing, and then satisfying her husband. Like, I realized that I too am hitting my period of liberation, unified throughout all the husbands of the world. And just like the washing machine of old, or the vacuum cleaner of old, or the supermarket has liberated women across the world from their chains that they were chained to their husband with, I realised that I'm in a similar position in which now, thanks to technology, I am going to, for the convenient price of $3,500, have access to a infinite amount of sexual experience. And the problem is, it's like, you ladies really, really, really did a number on yourselves in that regard. Like, you played it till the bitter end. The hoarding that has gone on is going to kind of all collapse at the same time. And believe it or not, the world that we live in is designed by, I keep hearing it, is designed by men. It's like, it's designed by men to get women. That's the bit that you miss all the time. So yeah, the world is designed by men so that they can perpetuate their endless desire to get women. And that's about to be satisfied. It's like the washing machine was invented by men so that women could get to their endless desire for all the clothes to be clean. So it's the same. It's the same thing. It's an amazing thing that technology is going to cast off these shackles. And unfortunately, because of that elevation of women, it's like women became more and more demanding, and the world had to absorb all this cost, and so that burden landed on women. No, it landed on men. Like it always does. The burden of war lands on men. The burden of innovation lands on men, and the burden of carrying that load of all those washing machines and all those vacuum cleaners and all those things crushed my body, because economics doesn't work like a perfect machine. It if I'm planted in an economic period where the only option for me to fulfill my male duties enforced by the whole thing is to literally break my body to do that. And this is coming from a white-skinned person in the Western world. I'm not, of course, the person in, the third world is in a worse case, but it's like, that's not always that obvious, because their needs are less. It's the frenzy, it's the increased demand was at such a point for all these things that, and the economic system just can't handle it. So what it does is it just puts stress on the strongest point, and luckily that held up. But it's like, it's not gonna hold up after this. So I've witnessed, I now know that I am the incarnation of man, of father, of provider, of whatever, that is about to step into a world where everything changes. Where all that societal pressure just doesn't make sense anymore. It's like, why the fuck would I do any of that ever again? Like, what? Obviously it's going to hit an end. Like, I can't believe it actually got this far. You see the things of like movies where there's this guy just working his ass off to provide his wife with his house and his kids with this perpetual fucking entertainment, and so that they can go and travel around the world and do all these things. It's like, that's going to fall. It's going to fall with this. No one is voluntarily using a washboard to wash their clothes. No one, I'm particularly, one thing I love sweeping. I'm not a big fan of vacuum cleaners. They make noise and they're annoying. I mean, if you have carpet, they're understandable, but even carpet, it's like, why would you have fucking carpet? This is the brain of a man. And we're all, there's different levels, but we're all somewhere within that area. And so, I mean, post the world up until VR, it's like we hung on for as good as we can. We literally had a million women in our pocket at all times. And we fucking fought the good fight for you. We provided, we broke our backs, we sweated in the streets, we did everything. And it's like, and with one glorious revolution into the world of technology with the VR goggles, all of that will disappear because it will just become too obvious that it's a fucking con. And that's where we are. Everyone knows this. It's different levels. Some people are bagging out women, or women are being this, and some people are bagging out men, or men are doing this. Some people are bagging the world, or we're going into hell. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I do know that it's going to be different. I do know that I can value myself different. I do know that I did do everything I could within the system that was presented in front of me. I worked my ass off. And I know that those days of that con is gone. I know the days of women exploiting their sexuality to the highest point imaginable. We are there. We're right there. And unfortunately, the distribution of that will be the undoing of that. Say my life was spent I'm a tradesman, I'm a glazier, I fix windows, I install shower screens, I do all that kind of, put mirrors in, all this stuff. Heavy, annoying, sweaty, fucking bullshit work. If all of a sudden there were robots that could do that, I would be fucked. And this is the problem. This is exactly where we're at. We're at this right now. And so even the idea, it's like all of this is going to break down. The whole thing is going to break down in such a way that is just like, no way. It's like we literally are standing at the beach and looking in the distance going, should water be that high and should it be coming towards us like that? Like that's what's happening. These shipping containers are going to land in our country. The gossip is going to start. It's going to be like I personally think it's going to be like the OxyContin or crack epidemic or whatever it is, but of like weird positivity where men collectively come together and just go, fuck off. Like, because this is all wives, this is how they exist. It's like, can you get up and fix the aerial under? And like at the end of the day, the thing that's happening is like, they're kind of like, well, I'll just fucking leave. And it's like, that is going to just become less and less of an issue. Like it's the men are like efficient creatures. That's what we don't stay in marriage because it's like we stay in marriage because it's like efficient. It's like, no, fuck, I could go and find another. It's like, I don't know, that's gonna be fucked. Like this is kind of working right now. That's what men are like. This is just honestly, you know what I mean? And it's the same as like you don't see women, except like really cool women, in my regards, like the woman that dresses up in a bonnet and is washing with the fucking thing just because it's cool. It's like, that's a fucking sexy girl. But it's like most of them aren't. I haven't seen a woman churn butter in a long time. I haven't seen a woman skin a hair in a couple of 100 years or 100 years or something like that. I haven't seen a woman. It's like that. And it's kind of like all of those things. This is the actual way it works out. It's like women did all of those things so that they didn't have to expose themselves to all that risk of being with lots of men or something like that. And so, because otherwise it's like, and this is the thing, is like they were enslaved. It's like, no, they weren't. You can't enslave a woman. Like you never have been able to. They were there because it was a benefit like to them. It's just somewhere that got twisted because they had all this technology, and it's like, so it is the same. Women started talking about being free the more freedom they got because of technology. And it's like, this is what's going to happen with men. I can't believe we got this far because it was just this one thing. It was just sex. And there was a weird, like, this is what's been documented everywhere. It's like people are being less sexual. Oh, they're using these things. But it's like when that thing hits enough of a level, even like sexual things for women went through the roof. So every woman now has another man in her drawer or some type of equivalent. It's like now that's going to be the same with men. Like it finally is going to hit a point where it's just it's like that, and then it just becomes, so what's going to be filtered out? Like there's going to be mass, this is everywhere, there's going to be mass marital negotiation globally, on a global scale, which is unspeakable how much that is going to affect everything else. If you've ever been at a dinner party and there's a married couple having a tiff, you know that energy, that weird like, oh fuck, ooh, God, fucking Jesus Christ, like that feeling, We're going through 2 or 3 years of that with everyone. There is no way that's not happening. Because it just, there is such a difference between, like, it just keeps stepping. It kept stepping and stepping and stepping. And then this final leap between this and that is so big. It's so big. It's not, it's like a factor of 10 on top of the other thing. And it just creates, so it's not, it's like women have just kind of accepted. It's like, oh, my man might watch porn and do this and like that. You know, it's fine. It's like, whatever. It's like, it's going to be like, oh, my man's fucking some fucking woman with his VR. And then it's like, how long does that take before it's like, if you're already doing that with a porn star or a stranger, it's like, how long is it really going to take before you like, do you want to have sex? Like, that's just going to happen. It's going to fucking happen. I fucking swear to God. It's going to like, yeah, I've seen it in full fucking 360 degrees. So, yeah, and it's just something people aren't going to talk about. This is a whole, it's the opposite of the pandemic. Everyone had an opinion on the pandemic. Everyone wanted to talk about the pandemic. Everyone wants to, you know what I mean? Do this and safety measures and this shit. So you don't understand how much the stability of these structures actually affects the world. And globally, for every marriage on earth to be having some type of fucking pretty high level negotiation tiff is going to cause some issues. And this is where like I'm kind of at the forefront going like, listen, we need to have fucking serious conversations about this. We need to have serious conversations about children, about protection of children, about marital fucking family courts. If like you, because it's going to affect everything, and it's way bigger than a fucking pandemic. You know, at the end of the day, a pandemic, the way it was framed, it's like it's killing people. It's like, okay, well, if those people are dead, then they're not there. So they're either alive or they're dead. It's a fucking black or white, yes or no, 50-50 kind of thing. It's like, if it revolves perpetual patterns of humanity that are going to perpetuate themselves in our day-to-day lives everywhere, that's a way bigger problem than alive or dead. It's not as confronting, and it's a bit more abstract. It's harder to kind of picture, but it will cause a lot more trouble. And these simple solutions that we're going to have are no match for what's coming. And our institutions of the past were built on the social norms and the religious structures of the past. And so it's like we're somewhere in the middle, and we're about to come smack bang into this reality everywhere at the same time. And I guarantee you this is what's happening. And I guarantee you no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about it. It's like everybody's doing it, but nobody talks about it. It's like, that is going to be the strangest part of this. So, yeah. Cinderella. It's the Cinderella. It's not the golden slipper. It's the Apple goggles. Have fun out there.